as I normally like to do, we got AEW stars to go on the forefront. To be at the forefront for the Rampage preview, as tonight on Rampage, on TNT. It is a stacked show with Ricky Starks against Daniel Garcia. The Elite will defend their Trios Championships again for the second week in a row on Rampage against Top Flight and AR Fox. Top Flight and AR Fox won the Trios Battle Royal a few weeks ago. I think maybe it was either early 2023 or late 2022 when they won the Trios Battle Royal. But that match should be a spectacular contest and something to write home about. But I think also that AEW need to be focused on the idea of, with 2 weeks left before AEW Revolution, that they need to set something up, if they want to set something up for the Trios Championships at the pay-per-view. Then they need to set something up tonight for the pay-per-view for Kenny and the Bucks. Otherwise, they won't be defending the titles at Revolution, because you can't just do it the week before and expect people to care about the Trios titles the week before the pay-per-view. But also, Jade Cargill will be defending her championship against Vert Vixen tonight as well. And as I've mentioned multiple times over the last couple of weeks, Jade Cargill can't win forever, and she needs a capable challenger, because I think, number one, people are going to get tired of seeing Jade win. Number two, people are going to get tired of seeing Jade win against people like Vert Vixen. I'm not saying Vert Vixen is not a capable challenger, but what I am saying is that she's not somebody people know, and that you have people within the women's division that may or may not be featured in a prominent way or any way, and yet you're having Jade Cargill defend her title against Vert Vixen. You know what I mean? So that's just my question. But also tonight, Dustin Rhodes against Swerve Strickland, as the Mogul Affiliates rivalry with Dustin Rhodes continues. And I think it should be interesting to note there is clearly unfinished business between Swerve and his former partner. The only question is, will that unfinished business be addressed heading into Revolution or heading into the pay-per-view? Or will we hold it off until maybe May at Double or Nothing and focus on that unfinished business as we head into the summertime? I think that's a question that only AEW knows, and maybe we'll get an answer sooner rather than later, as we still have 2 weeks before Revolution on pay-per-view, with Revolution taking place Sunday, March 5th. I think in my opinion, partially, the matches are going to be a little bit less, because there were some pay-per-views last year that had the Ring of Honor titles on the line. And with the Ring of Honor championships out of the way, there's going to be a little less matches, even though I do believe the only Ring of Honor title that was ever defended at a AEW pay-per-view was the Ring of Honor World Championship. And that was because Chris Jericho held the belt. But now with Ring of Honor as its own brand, they're not going to have that anymore. Because, well, they have their own brand, they have their own weekly television show, they have, they're standalone. But my question is, and I said this at Final Battle, unless you're going to have Claudio head over to Ring of Honor, unless you're going to have Wheeler Yuta head over to Ring of Honor, how do you have Ring of Honor have a standalone brand and have people from AEW jumping between them? Unless you're just going to do that until you establish a standalone roster for for Ring of Honor, unless you're going to do that until then, that makes sense. But at the same time, it needs to be something in the back of your mind sort of like creating an identity for Rampage, it needs to be something that is in the back of your mind. What are you going to do? How are you going to help Ring of Honor? And how is Ring of Honor going to stand alone from AEW and be different? And not just be, AEW light. You know what I mean? How is Ring of Honor going to be its own brand and not stand alone from AEW and not just be considered AEW light? That if you want to move underutilized talent like Miro or I don't want to say Kip Sabian, but Kip Sabian, if you want to move talent like that, like you did with FTR. FTR were not featured names in AEW last year, but everywhere else they were featured talent. New Japan, Ring of Honor, AAA, they were featured talent because they held their titles. And you used them to your benefit. You allowed them to go elsewhere. You allowed them to do more than what they were doing in AEW. And if you're going to do that with talent, that's fine. But the fact of the matter is, Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta are not underutilized. They're not underutilized on AEW programming. And as Eric Bischoff would say, giving them, allowing them to be seen on multiple programs risks Claudio and Wheeler Yuta becoming overexposed. It risks people getting tired of seeing them and the fans turning on Wheeler and Claudio. Wheeler Yuta is still one of the hottest prospects in AEW, and with, in my opinion, MJF not considered a pillar anymore, because, in my opinion, you can't sit here and say that somebody who is the AEW World Champion is a pillar for the future. He is the present, not the future. He is the present of AEW and not the future of AEW, because you can't be the future of AEW and the World Champion. Because you're not the future, you're the present. But, again, the plan for Rampage tonight, Daniel Garcia versus Ricky Starks, and hopefully that'll be one of the last times we see that match, because you would figure that there was not other people within the JAS, because when was the last time Angelo Parker or Matt Menard competed? I know they're a tag team, but still, the Elite versus Top Flight and AR Fox, knowing AEW, that could be the opening match, and Ricky Starks, Daniel Garcia could be the main event. Jade Cargill against Vert Vixen. I do hope that if Jade is at the pay-per-view, that AEW is coming up with a plan for the TBS champion to possibly lose her first match. Swerve Strickland and Dustin Rhodes, it is an intriguing feud because I think Dustin Rhodes has a lot to offer, especially with this being his last year in wrestling before he hangs it up as an active wrestler. But I think the big question is, how will Keith Lee fit in when he does return? And if Keith Lee does return before Revolution, will we see Strickland versus Keith Lee at Revolution? Or will the right answer be Keith Lee versus Parker Boudreaux or one of the other members of Mogul Affiliates? With that being said, AEW Rampage tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern Time on TNT. Right after SmackDown, it's a Friday night, and you know what that means? A lot of wrestling. But with that being said, I will see you tomorrow for more videos. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, and remember, TBS at TNT tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, AEW Rampage.